Okay, so now let's talk about qualitative data graphs. Basically, they are useful when you have categorical data. And once you have categorical data, you may want to use them to help you visualize your data. The first qualitative chart is pie charts. Okay, a pie chart is a circular depiction of data where each slice represents the percentage of the corresponding category. So we have a few categories. Each category has a number associated with that, and then you use slices to represent those categories. And the most useful thing is to visualize relative frequency distributions. So we're going to see what's the proportion of this particular category among or within the whole distribution. To give you some examples for our bike rental dataset, suppose we want to visualize the proportions of rentals in the 4 seasons, or the proportions of rentals on the 7 days of a week. We can try to use pie charts. To get a pie chart, of course, you need to first calculate those numbers. If we look at the data, we see a label season as a column, and then we realize each day is categorized into one of the 4 seasons, winter, spring, summer, and fall. Okay, and then we can do some basic summation to get the total rentals in each season. If we want, we can also calculate the proportions of that. So you can simply answer the previous question with this table. These numbers here can tell you what's the proportions of each season. But sometimes using a graph is just more intuitive. And if we prepare a pie chart for this table, it would be like this. Because we have 4 categories, so we have 4 slices. Each slice represents the one season. And if the proportion of that season is larger, the pie should be proportionally larger. So once we read this pie chart, we will see that, oh, okay, so for summer, it occupies around 1/3 of total rentals. Well, around 1/3. For fall and for spring, each of them accounts for around 1/4, and so on and so on. Okay, so a pie chart can be a very intuitive representation of category proportions. As another example, we may want to see whether there is any difference between Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. Well, in this case, we can follow the standard rule to find the totals for each of the 7 days. We get these numbers, and then we depict a pie chart for them. In this case, the pie chart gives us one information. Roughly speaking, the distribution is very uniform. Each day occupies around 1/7 of the total rentals, right? Because we cannot see a very huge difference, very significant difference from slice to slice. So probably with this pie chart, we can only see that, well, days from days, they are roughly the same. If we want more detailed numbers, more detailed comparisons, we still need to go back to the table itself. So there is, of course, some limitations on pie charts. There's one thing to remind you. Pie charts are used to visualize proportions. Okay, proportions. And the proportion simply means subtotals over the overall total. So it should not be used to compare averages. Some examples are here. Suppose we have records for whether the guy renting this bicycle is a boy or a girl. Suppose that's the case, then the total number of rentals made by male and female users. Okay, that's appropriate for a pie chart. We probably will see, around 60% of the bikes are rented by female users, around 40% are rented by male persons, and so on. That's reasonable. But if we have two numbers which are the average numbers of rentals per male and per female user, then the two numbers are not appropriate for a pie chart. If you depict them on a pie chart and as two slices, it's just not something that we should do with pie chart, because pie charts are used to visualize proportions, not to compare averages. Okay, so when you have two numbers that are average numbers, then you shouldn't use a pie chart to compare them. Instead, you probably want to use the next chart that we want to introduce is it's bar charts. So pie charts are very useful if we want to visualize proportions of each categories. But if we are actually interested more in the differences, then a bar chart would be a better choice. The larger the category, now the longer the bar. And the bar can be vertically drawn or horizontally drawn. It doesn't really matter. So as an example, suppose we still have those 7 days in a week and we still want to compare them. Instead of using a pie chart, we can actually use a bar chart. And then we will depict our chart like this. Once you do that, you immediately can identify the differences. For example, you immediately can see that Sunday is actually the least popular day for bike rentals. And on the other hand, Friday is the day that most rentals occurs. Thursday is also a day that the bikes are popular, and so on. Okay, so when you want to see the differences, a bar chart is more useful. But then, of course, it says nothing about proportions. Another thing that you need to be aware of is whether this number is 0 or not. In this particular bar chart, because we want to highlight the differences, so we start our y-axis from a specific number that is not 0. Okay, we start from here. If you try it, you may draw a bar chart where the first number here is 0. In that case, these bars will be very similar to each other. Okay, reasonable. And then it's not so easy to highlight the differences. So it's really up to you to decide how to draw a bar chart, in particular how to set the initial number of your y-axis. Okay, that's something to decide. And when you are a reader of the bar chart, be aware of this. Okay, be aware of this. Finally, please do not forget that bar charts are different from histograms. Okay, what are the differences? A bar chart uses non-contiguous bars to visualize categorical data. On the other hand, a histogram uses contiguous bars to visualize quantitative data. For a histogram, originally we have ungrouped data. We first group them into frequency distributions and then use a histogram to visualize it. Okay, so there are points being categorized into each categories. But for a bar chart, the data itself originally is categorical. Okay, we simply have 7 categories, and then we group, and then we draw them one by one. So the meaning itself is different, and also graphically, there is no hole in between two bars in a histogram. But in a bar chart, we typically do not connect those bars. Okay, I intentionally make them separated so that you understand, oh, this is a bar chart, this is for categorical data. So in the future, if you want to draw a histogram, connect all the bars. If you want to draw a bar chart for categorical data, separate them. Okay, thank you.